First of all, a big thank you to El Camino Hospital Association with Lexus of Stevens Creek Fidelity Investment and U.S. Bank.
We'd also like to thank tonight Harrell Remodeling of Los Gatos. They're here. Home Care Assistance. The Terraces of Los Gatos. Who are here from the Terraces? There's a whole bunch of lovely young people from the Terraces. And we're happy to have you guys tonight with us. And the Sereno Group. Is the Sereno Group here yet? They were setting up. I think they're still setting up. All right, they'll be with us just momentarily. But we want to ask you to really get up and go thank our sponsors tonight. Go over and say hi. Thank them for doing what they do. We could not do this without them. And they have a lot of freebie giveaways for you guys tonight. We'd also like to thank Ed Stahl and Travel Advisors, formerly Jazz, they're not formerly, they are our Jazz patron seating sponsors, the town of Los Gatos and the city of Montecito. A Bay Area News Group, are they here yet? They were just setting up when I was over there, Bay Area News Group. I actually also write a column for the work, so they're very near and dear to my heart. Please go say hi to them. Yeah, you better behave or we will kick you out. He said we can't kick Daryl out. All right, and I'd like to really now, let's give it up.
Oh, no, you don't.
Yeah, no, I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. I'd like to welcome our executive producer, Michael Jacoby. Everybody, Donald, could you please come on for Michael?
Oh.
That's half-hearted.
That is pathetic.
Half-hearted. Donald.
Have you been You know what I've done?
A ton since the last
Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca's be back in intermission with a surprise announcement about jazz cards. You can talk about that in intermission. Yeah, your microphone's off. So
yeah, which is good for you. We have a very special, once-in-a-lifetime, tonight only special for the jazz card. So hang out, be ready for it. I'm going to tell you more about it. You won't want to miss it.
Thank you, Rebecca. A big hand for Rebecca. See, that's better. That's the smattering I'm looking for. All right, you have one line in the entire evening, so you can use it now as I say good evening.
Good evening.
Oh, that's good. That narrowed it down. All right. We, last week with Tony Lindsay was not bad. Did you have fun? And the week before with the 4 freshmen. I don't think we've had a bad week this year. It's been a good year, and it will continue and very much perhaps reach a pinnacle tonight. I don't know. Let's see what I wrote. A few thoughts on Bria Skonberg. I hate the word best. It's so trite, so limiting, so 80s. Take Bria Skonberg, for example. Sure, Hot House Jazz magazine named her best jazz artist, best female vocalist, and her quartet best group. But how good can she be? Well, let's put it this way. I'd best consider my reluctance to use the aforementioned adjective. You see, from everything I hear, the key word here is here. She is the best. And she is our sleeper this summer. A sleeper is an artist that you probably don't know, but definitely won't soon forget. Jackie Green was a sleeper, as was John Prue and Haley Loren. In fact, a younger Giacomo Gates began his visit here with that label. Bria began her professional career as a big band singer at age 16, doubling on trumpet. She has since performed as a band leader and a guest artist at over 50 jazz festivals in North America, Europe, China, and Japan. A student of the great Warren Vachi, she has thrilled audiences from Newport Beach and Birdland to the iconic Cafe Carlisle. Tonight she arrives here at Jazz in the Plazz, riding a wave of talent with her eyes squarely on the future. The future of jazz, the future of the blues, the future of American music. It appears that best is about to get better. Please welcome the El Camino Hospital stage, Bria Skonberg.
see everybody out there. It's wonderful to be here, and you too. Feel your support. Hi, everybody. What a pleasure to be here in beautiful Los Gatos, California. And I know Michael talked about me, but I want to waste no time in letting you know who these wonderful gentlemen are up on stage. This band is based out of New York City, but I'll let you know where we're all from originally. From the West Coast, Vancouver, British Columbia, now resident of Brooklyn, New York, on various instruments. This is the multi-talented Evan Arnson. Playing this beautiful piano. I noticed that. Thank you to the people organizing this. Originally from St. James, Missouri, on the piano is Dalton Ridenauer. From a little known town called Edgewater, British Columbia, on the bass, meets Sean Cronin. And from Jackson, Mississippi, on the drums, this is the great Darian Douglas. We love jazz music in all its forms. We started with a song written by the true American Idol, I believe, Mr. Louis Armstrong. That was called Hotter Than That. And the second number was a song written by the great Creole clarinetist Sidney Bechet. It's Egyptian Fantasy. You might know this one. Grab your coat, get your hair, leave your worries on the doorstep. Just affect your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that rhythm and that heartbeat is your step? Life would be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade with my blues on parade, but now I'm not afraid, for this world first passed by. If I never had a cent, I'll be rich as Michael Jacoby, with gold dust around my feet, on the sunny side of the street. I said, grab your coat, get your hat, leave your worries on the doorstep. Life is sweet on the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear that bitter pain and that happy tune is your step? Oh, life is fine. You won't hear me when I used to walk in the shade with my blues on parade, but now I'm not afraid. I'm fresh, no worries, I never have a cent. I'll be rich as Rockefeller, gold dust around my feet on the sunny side of the street. be fine. I used to walk in shame with my blues on parade. Oh, but now I'm not afraid. This road is over if I never had a sin. I'll be rich as Rockefeller. Close on my feet on the side me. Side me, all right, thank you. Thank you. I wrote that. You don't believe me. It's okay, I'll credit my parents. My initials are BS. They have a good sense of humor, and I hope you do too. All right, we're going to move along with a song that was a favorite of mine ever since I got to see part of the movie Jazz on a Summer's Day. We had the opportunity about last weekend to play at the Newport Jazz Festival, which was just thrilling. Thank you very much. It was a big honor, just like playing here. And it was really special to drive into that city because you could see the Bay Area, and it was just gorgeous. And it makes me think of that clip of Anita O'Day from the 1958 Jazz on a Summer's Day, and she did a couple of wonderful renditions of some jazz classics, and we're going to do our rendition of one of those songs now. I'm discontented with homes that I rented, so I have invented my own. Darling, this place is a lover's oasis when life's weary chase is unknown. Far from the crime of the city, where flowers pretty caress the streets. Cozy to hide in, to live side by side in, don't let it abide in my dreams. And no, with nobody near to see us near the hands of the nation, on vacation home, and know we all there's no breaking your will, I'll stand and bake a shut for you to take for all the boys to see. Everybody's a family of all you girls, you think just how happy we would be. Yes, picture me upon your knee. T-4-2, 2-4-T, oh how happy we'll be. When nobody knows to see us, now here's no time, no revelation. Make a vacation, go, never know we on the town. They will break you all away. I'll start to bake a sugar cake for you to take my little boys to see we. It's a family of boys, oh you know me think how happy we would be. Picture me a party, people to party, oh can't be with me. With nobody nears to see us, because of friends and relation. Been on vacation, no one wanna know we all talk. They were breaking your legs, start to friction. For you to take for a voice to see. Leave the ways of family, a boy, you never for me free. Just how happy we would be. Yes, can't you see how happy we would Thank you. That song is called Malaguena. It's an old Cuban song. It's a song from the 1920s, actually, and I just had some inspiration for an arrangement on it. What I love about these guys, there's so many things. They're multi-talented, and they also love music from the great, before the pre of the Great American Song, but the 1920s and 30s. And I'm going to feature Mr. Evan Arnson and Sean Cronin now on a duet. They actually lead their own band in New York called the Scrubboard Serenaders. Guitar, bass, washboard, and clarinet. 4-part vocal harmonies. They're fantastic. You can check them out on YouTube, or you can catch a little preview of them here.
It's not really what you think, though. We actually rock out.
In your own sweet way.
Yeah, so we're going to sing a song right now that was recorded by Louis Armstrong, a famous version, and it's something we like to sing together. It's called I'm Confessing. I'm confessing that I love you. Tell me, do you love me too? I'm confessing that I need you. Honest, I do. I need you every moment. In your eyes I read such strange things, but your lips deny the truth. Will your answer really change things, making me blue?
I'm afraid someday you'll leave me.
No, don't leave me.
Saying can't we still be friends?
If you leave, you'll really grieve me. All in life on you depends. Yeah, am I guessing that you love me? Dreaming dreams of you in vain. I'm confessing that I love you over again. Down there.
Someday you leave me. Saying can't we still be friends?
And we still be friends. If you leave, you'll really grieve me. Oh, life on you depends. Am I guessing that you love me? Dreaming dreams of you in vain. I'm confessing that I love you over again. Let's go.
very cute.
He's cute, ain't he?
All right, you two, knock it off.
Good thing I'm mute.
So people sometimes ask me, how did somebody like you get into this old style of jazz music? And I can very proudly tell you it's because I grew up in a town in British Columbia, Canada, named Chilliwack. You've been to Chilliwack? How many of you have been to Chilliwack? Oh my gosh, how many of you have heard of Chilliwack? okay, that's a little better. Most places I've never, just say Gesundheit and move on. I'm very proud of that. Besides beautiful scenery, we also had a raging hot jazz festival for over 20 years, and so as I was learning how to play the trumpet, my teacher was giving me great music by the likes of Louis Armstrong, Sidney Bechet, Jelly Roll Morton, and I'm still working hard to do them justice. So we're going to play a song now by Pops Louis Armstrong called Cornet Chop Suey.
This is
who needs it? When all your needs are met, love, love, why seek it? What you see is what you get. Am I careless not to want, or selfish not to care? Am I greedy to want more, just because it's there? You intrigue me like a dark forbidden place. Oh, you delight me like chocolate dripping down my well, meet me in the middle, solid sideways glance. And if you can read my smile, well, you can take a chance. So many guys think a girl doesn't like them. Man with no plan for the man where the end. I've yet to know another Jill or Joe that didn't like to get there. Two other guys growing close and closer still. All too mine, come to find out coming through. Never tell it to you straight, leave the letters to the sin. Just call a spade a spade. Let's go on. Let's go on. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That is a song that I wrote a little while ago when I was feeling particularly single and sassy. So if that's how you feel right now, or you'd like to live vicariously, that song is available for you to take home with you. I do have plenty of CDs over there. When you look at the back of them and you don't recognize very many of the songs, that's because a lot of them are my original compositions in that same vein. They're not quite the Billboard hits as I envisioned them to be, but with your help, who knows? We'll see what happens. Okay. And actually, Dalton has some solo piano CDs, and Darian's got some of his cool swinging the New Orleans quintet. So we'll check them out over there. We're gonna play one more song this set, also on the new album, and then we're gonna take a little break and come back for more music. How's that sound? Does that sound good to you? Woo! Yeah. We're gonna go refill and rejuvenate and come on back. All right, so we're going to finish this set with a special request by Mr. Michael Jacoby, who is pretty wonderful. We have to admit, he's quite wonderful. I think he works really hard, and he won't let you forget it. He works really, really hard. And we had a great time today talking on the interview that'll be aired next week on KCAT about, just ideas about music. And I think that music can have old ideas, music can have new ideas, and they can all coexist. So here's a great song from the 1930s. Mashed together with a song from the 1970s, which I bet you'll recognize. Here we go. day. For what I feel in my heart, they tell me, see me. No other words can tell them how fast lately. How fast lately.
Three very big words for the Skonberg Quartet. How good are these guys? Yeah. How good am I to bring people like this to Las Vegas? It just occurred to me. All right, 1956. I was 4 years old. Sinatra was at Capitol. Jack Kennedy was a senator. Frank arguably was at the very peak of his career. He had just started recording with Nelson Riddle. They recorded that year for the album Songs for Swinging Lovers, a tune by Cole Porter that was written in 1936, introduced by Eleanor Powell in the MGM musical Born to Dance, and was nominated for Best Song. The tune was a hit in the late 60s by the Four Seasons, but no one
I left you some cookies.
will ever forget the monumental arrangement by the great Nelson Riddle of the extraordinary Cole Porter tune that if there's anything that Sinatra, it's I've Got You Under My Skin. Please welcome back to the Los Gatos Hospital, the El Camino Hospital, Los Gatos stage, Bria Skonberg.
Under my skin, I've got you deep in my heart of me, so deep in my heart that you're really a part of me. I've got you under my skin. I've tried so not to give in. I said to myself this day, let her could go somewhere. But why should I try to resist when darling I know so well I've got you under my skin. I won't sacrifice anything for the sake of having you near, in spite of a warming breeze that comes in the night and repeats in my ear. Don't you know, little fool, you never can win. Use your mentality, wake up to reality. got you under my skin. Yes, I've got you under my skin. Yes, I've got you under my skin. Indeed I do, Las Gatos, I gotta say, I'm liking it here a lot. I'm liking it here a lot. Michael and I were talking about other great Sinatra recordings. Of course, there are so many of them, and his version of this next song is just a beautiful, beautiful rendition. It happens to be my favorite song of all time. It was written by the great Hoagy Carmichael. Of course, we're familiar with that composer, that name from Indiana. And if you can believe it, the original title of this song was called The Barnyard Shuffle.
Okay.
Are you all familiar with the Barnyard Shuffle? Well, he wrote this tune, and then his good college friend Mitchell Parrish said, Hoagy, tell you what, let's slow it down a little bit. I've thought of some interesting words. Why don't you give this a shot? And here's what happened.
And now the purple dusk of twilight time steals across the meadows of my heart. High up in the sky, the little stars climb on. It's reminding me that we're apart. You wander down the lane and found, leaving me a song that will not die. Love is now the stardust of yesterday, the music of the years gone by. Sometimes I wonder why I spend the lonely nights dreaming of the song. The melody haunts my memory, and I am once again when our love was new. And each kiss an inspiration. But that was long ago, and now my consolation is in the stardust of a song. Beside the garden wall, where stars are bright, you are in my arms. The nightingale tells his fairy tale of paradise where roses grew, like dreaming babe. In my heart you will remain, my stardust melody, the memory of love's refrain.
Barnyard Shuffle. And now, we are going to play another song by the great Cole Porter. This is called It's All Right With Me. I hope that's all right with you. Here we go. All right with me. Thank you very, very, very much. For those of you that were kind enough to visit the CD table, I hope you picked up one of these postcards, and the postcards are free. They have a little, they're telling you about a crowdfunding campaign I've got going on right now for my next recording, which is happening in about 1 week. Which is very exciting. I'm going in, we'll be recording many jazz favorites, standard favorites, and also again some new music. And you could be a part of that process if you grab one of those and find me on the interweb following this concert. We're going to give you a little preview now of one of those new songs. It's an original number about falling in love. Another song about that, but I hope you like this one. How Can It Be? Nothing had never been before. Got about celebration. So as I mentioned before, I am Canadian, I'm very proud of that fact. And you know, in Canada, we have this thing, which by the way, I was very pleased to see you have La Canada building just over there. It feels like I'm at home. Amazing. Thank you. Anyway, we have this thing in Canada called Canadian content, where at least 12% of all programming on radio or television needs to be something distinctly Canadian. And so I will now sing a song for you in our official second language, en français. That's French for French. Does anybody here speak French? Oh, a few. Oh, good, yeah. The more wine I drink, the more French I speak. All right, enjoy this little ditty. Je vois la vie en rose. Il m'a dit des mots d'amour, des mots de tous les jours, et ça m'a fait quelque chose. Il est entré dans mon cœur. Comme la pause, c'est lui pour mon pays dans la vie. Il me l'a dit, la chérie pour la vie. Et dès que je l'aperçois, alors je sens en moi mon cœur qui bat. I don't think any of us knew what we were getting into when that one started. Oh, wow, this is really fun. This is really fun. Of course, we all have some dark moments from time to time, and I'd like to share. This is a song that I wrote at one of those. It's called "So Is the Day." I want you, but I can't have you. So is the day that I sing this song.
We've got 2 weeks left. Next week, the Monterey Jazz Festival High School All-Stars, which is always a joy and a thrill, followed by the great Spencer Day. But we've got a little bit of business to do. Every year, when somebody stands out and is special and has this kind of reaction, I consider inviting them back. Now, here's the problem. My partners, Jonathan and Terry, aren't here, and they've got 2 votes. I've got 1 vote, and you've got 2,500 votes. Please Skonberg. You want to come back? You want to come back next year. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the Bria Hospital, Las Vegas stage, and a group that's going to be here next year. Please Skonberg.
Wow! Everybody stay here. The Canada building over there. And that turret. If you hear trumpet, it's over here.
Yes, actually, so just quickly again, please let's get in touch. So I'm looking forward to seeing you next year, but hopefully I can see you before then a few times too. We're playing at Kumbwa tomorrow night in Santa Cruz. If you have friends or family or enemies, who cares? Great birthday, don't you? And if you want to connect online, if you Google Bria Trumpet, you'll find me, and it's easier than spelling my last name, I promise you. And I'm on Facebook, all those things. So please, let's get connected. That's amazing news. Thank you guys so much. We would love to. We would absolutely love to. So So I promise you that I'm happier now than when I wrote that last song. I'm okay. Because I get to travel here and play with these wonderful guys. One more time. Evan Einson on saxophones. Barry Douglas on drums. Eric Fuller on the bass. Walt Ryan on the piano. And I'll leave you with a fun number that I especially love. Since moving to New York City, a few things have changed drastically in my life. Number one, I no longer have a car. I don't have a television, and I don't have any money to go out and party. So this is my song. Grab my CDs. This is my song. Oh Lord, won't you buy me my friends all cry Porsches. Except that I must make payments. I've worked hard all my lifetime for my friends. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? My friends all my fortunes. I must make ends meet. I worked hard all my lifetime for my friends. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes-Benz? Yes, Lord, won't you buy me a TV? My name for $100. Coming out to me, I will wait for you next week. Oh Lord, won't you buy me And now it's the time.